as you agitate for change, be careful not to make the same mistakes that you're observing in the people that you want to change. If we are saying that our agitation is based on the fact that these people are breaching the constitution, are we going to achieve positive, sustainable change by breaching the same constitution ourselves?
We are not saying that we love our president so much. What we are saying is we hate anarchy so much that we would rather be in this bad situation in the interim until we can constitutionally bring about a meaningful change.
Lighting up fires, stealing from others, being arrogant, failing to listen and dialogue with people may also not work in helping us move forward. But at the same time, let us see the government, the leaders making the deliberate effort to build trust, to rebuild trust, to buy back the hearts of people by making the right decisions.
Good morning and a warm welcome to today's episode of LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi and I feel like I just want to start this conversation by asking everyone, how are you guys doing? How are you feeling? Like, if you are to be honest and just talk to me about how you're feeling. How exactly are you feeling? I know a lot of things have happened the last couple of weeks. I've seen people go out. I've seen people demonstrate. We have unfortunately lost lives in the mix of it. A lot of people are also missing. And now there is that divided tone also in the nation that whatever it is that we were discussing has already been addressed. Should we now let the president lead this country? And should we let him at least get time to execute his new plans? And I wouldn't be having this conversation without these two gentlemen. I really do value their views. One of them spearheaded this campaign from the word go. We woke up to this man that we had never heard of. People, majority of the people had never heard of him, and everyone was like, umesikia hiyo kitu yafanya mambo, have you heard what he said, you know? And people were cutting his clips into short versions, distributing them across social platforms. And guys, he has stood with what he said from the word go, and I will let him introduce himself in detail and also tell us what he does. But to be joined here by the CEO of Mediator Motors, also Eric, is amazing. I've always said on this platform, Eric is a great fan of thought-provoking conversations, meaningful conversations, and I hope by the end of today's conversation we can also be able to pick a thing or two that is going to help our country move forward. So karibuni sana gentlemen on the show. How are you feeling?
Very expectant.
Yes.
I think the country is going through a very interesting season of rebirth. And I think it is very important for us to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But of course, we cannot proceed before we send condolences to the families that are currently mourning for the loss of their young people.
Yeah.
And also those that are going through a lot of anxiety because their family members are missing. We hope to be part of the solution of the problems that are going on in the country. And I'm very excited to be seated between you and this great guy here to have this conversation.
Yeah, nice to have you.
Thank you.
Also, before, I don't like assuming everyone that is tuning in. I know you as Eric.
Yeah.
We've gone through a journey together also on the platform.
Yeah.
But maybe for someone who is tuning in for the very first time, could you introduce yourself and also tell us what you do?
Thank you so much. My name is Eric Ngugi. I'm the founder CEO for Mediator Motors, and I like to identify myself as a social entrepreneur. And as social entrepreneurs, we are interested in doing good business while building a good society that works for everybody, which I think is the greatest pain point that we have in this country today.
Yeah.
That we seem to have come up with a nation that is only good for a certain class of people. Those people can be politicians, those people can be the people that are seen to already be ahead. But the question becomes, how do we make sure that we've built a society whereby that boy who is born in Kibera, that boy who is born in a slum can actually find his way up into becoming a productive and contributing member of the society. So as a social entrepreneur, I am very excited to be part of this conversation because I'm very sure that through it, we will not only be able to learn, but we'll also be able to come up with thought-provoking ideas on how we can make Kenya work for everybody.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
On how we can make Kenya work for everybody.
Yeah.
When it comes to making Kenya work for everybody, as I said in the introduction, introduction, you were one of those people from the word go who came out with this conversation, and you were telling people, educating people on the finance bill. Now people know you, but again, there are those who are tuning in. They might not have seen you on maybe our platform. So could you please introduce yourself and also tell us why this cause was really important to your heart?
Thank you very much, Lynn. My name is Fanya Mambo Kinuthia. I know many people don't believe, so I usually tell them you can send a shilling the way you are sending to. I saw you sending a lot of money to MPs and they got 40,000 from 1 shilling. So you can send that to
confirm the name.
Just to confirm the name.
Yes.
So I'm Fanya Mambo Kinuthia. I'm a lawyer by training. And I run something that is very different, and it's good for me to say. I run Kilimani Mediation Center. What we do at Kilimani Mediation Center is we help people resolve disputes out of court. There's 1.7 million cases in court that should not be in court in the first place. Why are they in court? I mean, we disagree with you. Then we go to her, she's the judge. First, we tell her our problems. Then she has to understand and make a decision for us. So I believe in appropriate dispute resolution. We do it for corporates. We do it for individuals. I think the only thing we cannot mediate is 2 things. Murder is number 1. And number 2 is defilement. I mean, you don't go and defile a 16-year-old girl and come and say, we want to have mediation. You're a criminal, go to jail. But these are the things. I mean, Maridadi Motors, you had somebody is a supplier, you disagreed on tires and so on and so forth. The case is worth 2-3 million. Don't go to court. We'll help you. And if it is in court, we help you withdraw it from the court and resolve it out of court. So I'm a lawyer who chose not to do the conventional practice of go taking people to court. In fact, people come and tell me, niko na hii kesi nataka kupeleka mtu kotini. I tell them, then I don't think you are ready to resolve your dispute. What you want to do is a personal vendetta. You want to fight. I'll give you my classmates. The president of the Law Society was my classmate at choir. So I usually tell people, I'll give you my classmates. They'll go to court with you. But if you really are interested in resolving your dispute, because it's confidential, nobody will get to know about it. You save money, you save time, you save energy, and you save relationship. So we run a mediation-only firm. We help people resolve their disputes out of court. And they are binding. Just allow me to say that today the law has changed. A mediation settlement agreement has the full force of a judgment. Once it's filed in court, it's adopted, it's a judgment of the court, and it can be enforced. So this is the way to go. So that's what I do. And when I'm not doing that, I do lots of corporate trainings and motivational talks. I'm called when corporates have an engagement and they need someone to give a talk on something. That's me.
All right.
Beautiful.
And as I said, you spearheaded this, you among other people. When the finance bill came out, you are one of those people that, went hard on breaking it down. Why was this so dear to your heart?
I'll start with him. You owe me money.
There's already a dispute.
When they said about motor vehicle circulation tax,
Yes.
people did not understand it.
Until
Until I took this vehicle called a Toyota Fielder and broke it down and explained.
I
and
saw
people
that
have
on
seen
that example,
clip. So for you people who are selling motor vehicles, you owe me a big, because people had already said now they'll stop using their cars, they'll drop it down. Because people did not understand finance bill in detail. I was speaking about budget the other day, and I was breaking it down, and people were saying, oh, now we understand what it means. But in a nutshell, September of last year, 2023, I remember saying that government now needs to take the salaries and we take the taxes. Because you cannot talk about the cost of living without talking about taxation. You people are kind. You've given me this cup of tea. I told people the water is taxed. The milk is taxed. The sugar is taxed. Even the cup itself. By the time I'm done, I'll have taken a cup of taxes in the morning. And people are telling me I don't work, I don't pay taxes. So I start by taking a cup of taxes before I start my day. So we were trying to explain to Kenyans that not only is there direct taxation on your salary, because when people went to Bomas, NADCO, people are making submissions about counties, devolution. I'm not saying those things are bad, but I knew the modern day cancer was taxation. You cannot tax people that way and expect a nation to grow. So we started that fight. People called us busybodies. They said we were idle. I remember Senator Aaron Cheriot, where are you? Because I was with you at Bomas. Now, do you agree with me that the fight we put up has borne fruit? And we got disciples, and people started making TikToks. People started going to their LinkedIn, their YouTubes, and talking about specific things. Some people were touched by the new taxation on cancer treatment. Others were touched on the motor vehicle. And people started spreading the love and spreading the message. And I'm happy when I saw demonstrations. I saw a lot of my words in placards, and I kept quiet and said, thank you, Jesus, because people have taken this up. They have understood it in their own language. They've internalized it and they're fighting. And that's why I always tell people, when you want to go to fight, don't go and fight the enemy. First, create disciples. Create people who believe in your cause and make sure there are as many as possible. And then so that even if you sat down and watched, they would fight because they believe in what they're fighting for. So we thank God because it's been His grace. We've been able to disseminate this information, to communicate effectively, and it's now making an impact in the society because people now are very well aware. They know the difference between the budget and the appropriation, and they even understand now the finance bill is different from the budget and so on and so forth. And we will continue, we will be vigilant, we will not stop until we get to the place where we get good governance because we deserve good governance.
All right. He says we deserve good governance,
yeah.
right? You know, from where you're sitting, when the conversation on the finance bill started happening, when you saw people, you know, they are quoting him, people are saying this, people are giving also their own opinion. You are here as an entrepreneur also. You as an entrepreneur, were you feeling the heat? Did you feel like, oh my goodness, this conversation is long overdue? I feel like these people are saying the right things. Or from where you are sitting, why you guys stop? There's nothing. Kenya, we are doing great because we've been told we are actually doing great in the African continent. Kenya is actually doing great. We are making milestones, right? Were you feeling the heat, or when this conversation happened as an entrepreneur, were you like, guys, we are okay as a country?
No.
What's the fuss about?
I think actually one of the biggest problems is when you're getting a message that we are doing great. I think the question becomes, who is defining that great? It's great according to who? And one of the things that you find is the great disconnect between governments and the people. That the government could be reading numbers. But remember, the woman that is in the village who has arthritis, for her, her numbers is the medication for that arthritis. So for her, she's asking herself, how much was I buying this medication for last year? How much am I buying this medication for this year? And in the first place, how many kilometers do I need to travel to be able to get this medication? And one of the problems that you find is that somebody seated somewhere in governance, in government, could be reading their own numbers that make sense to them. They are reading some very, very big numbers. And I think one of the problems that we have is, how do we make those numbers relevant to the person that is suffering down there in the village? And I like what he's talking about, because one of the problems that we have been seeing in the society, for me as an entrepreneur, for every increment of money that you put in the table, something else needs to increase. So if governments are saying we need more taxes, I want to see an increment of services offered by the government on the ground. But one of the problems that we've had over the years is that you have African governments consistently telling the people, you need to pay more taxes. But the question is, what is the equivalent increment of the quality of education that we are offering to our children? What is the increment on the healthcare that we are giving our people? What is the increment on our services of transport and all that? What is our increment on sanitation? You saw, for example, the other day we had floods in the country, and the floods exposed our weaknesses in terms of service delivery to the people. That just a few weeks of floods, all of a sudden you don't have running water. All of a sudden, almost all the critical services have been completely dismantled. And you ask yourself, where do the taxes go in terms of offering the services to the people? And I think one of the things that has been greatly exposed is that taxes need to be moral. That for you to have the moral authority to continue increasing the taxes, the only way you can be able to have that moral authority to increase the taxes is if people are able to see an equivalent increment on your service delivery. But the budgets that we are seeing every day, they want to convince us that you have to continue paying more and more to the governments, but nobody is talking about service delivery. Right now, if you go and ask, fine, this budget wanted to increase this much increment, but what is it that is going to increase in terms of service delivery to the people? And that thing really bothers me, that somebody is seated somewhere wanting more and more money, but is not telling you what they are going to give more to the people.
Good.
Big problem.
Big service delivery.
Service
But
delivery.
Fanyamambo, let me ask you, when it comes to what Eric is saying, do you first, there's the conversation going on. This president has only been here for 2 years. What are these service delivery that you guys are pressuring him to do, okay? When we talk about even the office of the spouses, why did anyone not have a problem with the 10 years that Uhuru was in power when it came to the same office? So do you agree when people say it's like you are munapea mtu pressure mingi and he's just been here for 2 years and has to make sure he cleans up a mess that was left by the previous government?
First and foremost, the presidency is not forced on anyone. You asked for the job, Kenyans gave you. If you don't like it, you resign. Simple. You don't have to have the stress. In fact, I tell the president, it's very easy. You can wake up in the morning and decide, this is not my country. I can also become a civilian. And you resign. Let me tell you, why Kenyans are angry is because of the promises he made during campaigns. And one of the first promises that he made during campaigns was to lower taxation. He's doubling it. He said, I'm not going to borrow. He's overborrowed. He said we are going to look for local solutions to problems. He's always in the air. Kenyans have even given him a name. So the fact that he's doing the exact opposite of what he promised is the most annoying. And I told people, remember this government was formed on the premise of Hatutaki dynasty, Tunataka hustler. When he became president, the first dinner that he held at State House, he hosted the biggest dynasty in the world, the King of England. I would have expected him to host the biggest hustlers in the country to State House. Aseme, 2 boda representatives from Wasingishu, from Kakamega, Mamamboga, nini, and had a hustlers dinner at State House. It's never happened. The hustler government got into power and the first thing they did is held a dynasty dinner at State House. Hosting the children of the men and women who killed our grandfathers and took away our land and did all those things that were atrocious during the colonial period. That's what he did. He put up a dinner for them. So what I'm trying to say is that he has done the exact opposite of what he promised. And by the way, this country can be compared to a man who leaves the first wife and marries the second wife. And then this man, or a wife who marries a different husband. So this new husband is borrowing more from every other place. Is collecting more from every other place. But he's not paying fees. There's no capitation for school. He's not paying NHIF. In fact, he's collecting more on it. You have a man who has borrowed more, collected more, but is spending nothing. We have a man who's borrowed more, collected more. This is the new husband you have. He's borrowing more, he's collecting more, he's spending less or nothing. And by the way, always complaining about a previous regime and borrowing debts to pay debts. And then he comes and tells you he doesn't understand why you're complaining. The reason why people are feeling the heat, under Uhuru, there was capitation for schools. Right now, I sit in a board of a national school. And it's a crisis. In fact, I pity the headmaster. I don't know how that headmaster runs that school. Because it's from hand to mouth. There's no capitation for schools. Parents cannot afford it and so on and so forth. So you go right now to any medical facility. Kenyans think we are just fighting this government. Go today and produce your NHIF card. Uone kama utatengenezwa. So those things that Kenyans used to see happening are not happening. Then under Uhuru, this country was more like a construction site. I don't hold brief for him. I don't campaign for him. I'm not saying he was an excellent president, but the country was a construction site. There was a road being done everywhere. There was a bridge happening. Right now, we've not seen even a kilometer of road happening. So people are saying more money is being borrowed, more money is being collected, but there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
Only Sudis, we are seeing Sudi in white pants giving money, 20 million in one Harambe, and we're asking ourselves, why was he not able to give 20 million under the previous administration? His salary right now with the salary of an MP is known, and someone is able to give 20 million in a Harambe. Who allows people to do that? So these are the problems we are having.
What do you think? When he says there is no capitation for schools, produce your NHIF, you will not get the service. Is that what bothers you also as an entrepreneur?
I think I am in total agreement that the same thing that I was trying to put across, at the end of the day, to the citizen, it's about the services. What is it that the government is supposed to do for the people? Because we have to go back to the question of why do we pay taxes? And the reason why we pay taxes is because there are services that are best coordinated by the government. I mean, it's not realistic for every citizen to own a school. It's not realistic for every citizen to own a hospital. It's not realistic for every husband to own a maternity for the wife. There are services that should be centrally coordinated by the government. So for me, when I think about taxes, I feel that taxes are a social kitty. It is us saying, well and good, there are things that we need to contribute to and have the government build, for the enjoyment of every person. And I think now the disconnect is coming in because you have a very aggressive push to collect, like bring the kitty, bring the social kitty. But when it comes to the giving of the services are nowhere to be seen. Because for me, it's very simple. It's about my mom in the village getting sick. And my mom lives about a kilometer from a level 4 hospital or level 3 hospital. I don't remember, the correct term for it. For me, it's very, very simple. Can my mom walk to that hospital when she's unwell and get medication? If she can go and get the medication, then I see the justification to pay those taxes. For me, it's a simple question of simple services like water. Yeah, can people get water easily from the people that are supposed to supply these amenities and these services? And if those services are not near the people, he has given a very good example of our public schools. Every day we are saying that we are giving free education. But the question is, how well facilitated are the schools? When you talk to the principals, remember some of these principals are our relatives. Some of these teachers are our relatives. Some of these doctors and nurses in these public, facilities are our cousins, they are our brothers, they are our sisters. What are they telling us about the facilitation that they are getting from the government? So if the government can put equal effort in delivering services to the people as they are putting in collecting taxes from the people, then the anger will just go down because people will say, there's a reason, we can see why we are paying. But now people are making a very valid point of saying, when you need to take your child to school, you have to look for a private school because somehow you feel the service you will get from a public school is not at par with where education is in the world, okay? When you need to go to hospital, you cannot rely on your NHIF card because it's very simple. Some of us pay for NHIF for our parents, okay? So for me, it's a simple question of when my mom or my old auntie goes to the hospital with the NHIF card, is she able to get the treatment that she needs with that government card? If she cannot get the treatment, then you begin to question, why then do you need to pay for it? So for me, and I am not in any capacity to advise the government, but I would say that there is definitely an urgent need for government to see the need to ensure that those simple services that should be offered by the government can be felt at the grassroots. Without that, then there is no moral authority to continue collecting the taxes. And I think that is what the Gen Z generation, because remember the Gen Z generation, these are the kids of some of those mothers that are sick, right? These are the kids who understand that I just came from high school and these were the problems that we had in high school. And every time we kept on hearing the reason why we have these problems in the schools is because the government has not sent the money and all those things. This is the protest that we are seeing. The protest is valid and the protest has varied points that ought to be listened to. The government should take the protest as authentic feedback from a generation that is saying enough is enough. You've got to improve on the services that you're supposed to give the people.
Great. Yeah. And we see phase 1 is over.
Yeah.
The protests happened. People said, we don't want this bill. People said, we are rejecting. We don't even want you to amend. We want you to completely withdraw this whole bill. And he went and he said, if that's what you want, guys, I've withdrawn this whole bill. First, are you satisfied with him having withdrawn that bill? And are you okay with how it was done? Or do you feel like, sasa, I may withdraw, here comes the punish?
Number one, why withdraw after people die? These are conversations we've had for a long time. People are telling you the problem is the finance bill. and you're chest banging and saying the problem is the youth. The youth are not the problem. You bring a horrible bill and then you wonder why they're on the streets. And then you bring policemen paid by their taxes to brutalize them and kill them. In the spirit of, in law we say, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. If the president wants to have a conversation with the young people, number one, fire every policeman who shot at a young person. What goes on in the brain of a person who puts 8 bullets in a 12-year-old? What goes on in the brain of that policeman? And why would the president come on national TV and say he wants to have a conversation with young people when that policeman is still in the force being paid by our taxes? So you cannot kill us and rule us. You have to get to the point where the president has to come with clean hands. And how do you come with clean hands? You first get rid of all those policemen who killed a young... We still remember the brains of one of our young people on the floor of tarmac. It was unnecessary. I mean, there are so many rubber bullets in this country. Those would have been used on young people. So you cannot kill us and rule us. In a spirit of good faith, we want to first hear that the following policemen have been interdicted. They have been dropped from work. That is goodwill. Then we can have a conversation. But secondly, and most importantly also, is the operation of the law. I'm a lawyer and I can tell you it's very clear if you read Article 115 of our Constitution on the passage of bills in Parliament. And what will happen is that if it's not got presidential assent, it will pass within 14 to 21 days. Now, where does that leave us? One, they are saying it's going to be withdrawn. By which Parliament? The one on recess? The one without a mace? The one without a coat of arms? How will that happen? I see a situation where this finance bill is going to go through anyway. He spoke to us on national TV and told us that they are going to remove the monies that are allocated to the first lady and the second lady. I don't know if there's a third one. Maybe there'll even be a fourth one. But even if they did that, they had signed the appropriations. So it's already low. And these people have that money. So we see insincerity and we see lack of goodwill. And that's why the Gen Zs are back to the streets. That's why, and I can tell you the hearts of very many Kenyans are with the even if, when you see a mother allowing their son and their daughter to go back to the streets, knowing that there's the danger of that death, it's just telling you that the whole nation and is in that street. And allow me to say something. I want to celebrate the spirit of Kenya. I saw something painfully beautiful on the streets I'll never forget. One, I saw a young person on a wheelchair holding a placard. So someone offers to push. I am able differently. My legs are not working, but I reject the finance bill. And I saw an expectant lady on the streets saying that I'm doing this because I'm not going to be able to afford Pampers for this one. Something else I also saw on the street that made me celebrate the Kenyan spirit is someone who closed a very poor shop. I would call it a poor shop. Enye ukiangalia hiyo duka hata unashindwa vinyame afford kuchukua 2-3 cartons of water because hiyo shop imeisha. And then they went and gave that water for free to demonstrators, to doctors who offered their free services, to people who even gave blood to people they never knew. I remember lawyers from the Law Society of Kenya, God bless you, for the many times and many nights they spent as Central Police trying to get these people released. I saw a Kenyan spirit that has never been seen somewhere, to a policeman who had been overcome by tear gas, and they came and they were lifting that shield on his head and they were pouring water on his eyes. The demonstrators.
Yes,
I saw a lot of beautiful things. I saw Edwin Sifuna go in harm's way and was ready to take a bullet for Kenyans. So as the president is saying these things, he needs to know which kind of country is he governing. He's governing a country where very poor people would close a shop that is worth 5 or 10,000 and give water to demonstrators because that is their contribution to this fight. And if that doesn't move any human spirit, then I don't know what will. So let us celebrate that Kenyan spirit. Let us not just say those bad things. Let us remember that there are people who did things that when you sit back and look, one demonstrator, they were all accosted by police. And then he saw a lady who was with disability. She had a clutch. And he said, if the police are going to kill me, let them kill me. He went back and held her and started walking with her and showing her the way. And the cops came and they saw this is an act of humanity. They didn't even touch him. Those are the people we want to celebrate today, not a government that is causing chaos to its own citizen and actually creating a war between itself and its own people. Let us celebrate the spirit of Kenyanness, something beautiful, things that people are doing that have not been done elsewhere.
And Fanyamambo is talking about goodwill. If the president wants people to have a conversation, there are things that he needs to do, right? Talking of goodwill, there are also people who are saying, but even if, unfortunately, civilians were shot, there were policemen, and there was, policemen who are also in harm's way, people who were harmed. Why is no one feeling sorry for them? Why is no one talking about their loss?
Well, I think all human life is precious, whether it is the human life, whether it's a policeman or it's a civilian, because at the end of the day, when that policeman is going to be a brother to somebody, is going to be a father to somebody and all that. But I think my brother here is alluding to the fact that police force always responds to a central command. There is somebody at the top who is informing the police what they should do on the ground. He gave a very good example of the rubber bullets and the live bullets. If you have no intention really to go and kill anybody, why would you come out with guns that are loaded with live bullets? So I think the very simple things that the government has to do to rebuild trust, because I think this entire conversation is really so much invested in the fact that there is a trust deficit between the people and the government. And this trust deficit, you see, the older generation didn't need to trust you to obey your instructions. The older generation could just obey your instructions based on your authority. Because you're the chief, because you're the DO, because you are a cop and you've come and you've said people need to get out of here, the older generation will just go out of there because you have said based on your authority. But we have the Gen Zs. These are the guys that we have taken to school. They know their rights. They come to the streets with the Constitution. So for you to tell them you need to get out of here, you have to tell them which chapter of the Constitution you're referring to tell them to get out of there. They are ready to question and they are ready to fight for their rights. And the thing is, for you to rule and to lead this generation, because you can't rule them, you can only lead them. And you lead them with their permission. You have to build trust with them. And the building of trust with them is going to be a process. It is going to be in the keeping of the small promises that you have made. If, for example, you have made that you're going to reconstitute the IEBC in 14 days, in those 14 days, these guys are on their calendars. They are counting the days to see whether you're going to do it. Before you do that one thing that you have promised, don't make another promise. So for me, I think it is a simple issue of making sure that you get permission to lead the people that you want to lead, by making sure that you're keeping your promises and that you're true to your word, and that people can actually see that you're one of them. You're not an oppressor. You're working towards building a society, a country that works for everybody.
And his appearance on the round table interview, he said, I'm willing to have these conversations. I'm willing to go on these X spaces. I'm willing to have dialogue. Are you willing to talk to him, or would you first want him to showcase some level of would you want him first to do something that builds trust in people before he can have this dialogue?
Two things. The people who gave us fake fertilizer are still in government. The people who brought us bad edible oil are still in government. The people who killed the young people are still in government. If the president was wise, and I'm not saying he's otherwise, you should have first woken up and fired these people. You don't give people bad fertilizer and they pay for it. And then you continue to be in government.
He said he fired, right? He fired. There are those that are.
He did not fire the minister. The minister is the person who received, and I remember even the date when he received fertilizer from Russia. It was free fertilizer. And then they added the donkey stuff, and they added the gravel that is best for affordable housing. And then they added Kenya Kwanza subsidy. So you take it for free. You add what was actually the truth is donkey, and then you add gravel, and then you add Kenya Kwanza subsidy, then the price becomes 2,500. So it is free. When you dilute it with all those things, including subsidy, it becomes 2,500.
The part that I'm talking about is you are a lawyer, so you believe in the rule of law, which means that there has to be, someone might have been said to have done, but then there's a due, you have to do due diligence, and there's a due process that needs to be followed before you can be able to get them off that position. Do you think it's taking too long?
Let me tell you the truth. Someone needed to take political responsibility for what happened, and nobody has. I am telling you, there is no way. More than 100,000 tons of fertilizer, that's a lot of fertilizer, will move from NCPB to all those government agencies, and the minister is not aware. The fact that he's not aware, we are firing him for not being aware.
Good.
That there is bad fertilizer that is being given to farmers.
Yeah.
The fact that he was not aware is good enough to fire him. But let me come to the most important thing. If you're a pastor and you went to State House, I'm talking to you now. Wewe ulienda State House kufanya nini? Wewe haukukataa finance bill. You had no problem with the Ruto administration as a pastor. You have never said reject finance bill. You did not go to State House. You did not go to the streets. You did not take tear gas. Ulienda State House kufanya nini? And then, none of you pastors was injured in the demonstration. When you finished, none of you went to hospital to see the young people. None of you went to the mortuaries to see the young people. None of you gave a statement. Those pastors who were in State House, forget about the Catholic Church because we saw what they did and a few other churches that I think are in the right spaces. But most of these pastors, hata kwenda kuona wagonjwa, they did not even donate blood. And then when they had pilau is ready in State House, wakapeleka tumbo zao. Ulienda State House kufanya nini? You had no problem. You took no tear gas. You had not rejected the finance bill. You had not objected to anything. Then you hear there's a call to State House and you think food is ready, you go and sit there with your purple shirts and collars. Shame on those pastors, and we shall tell them to their face. And then what do? They hear an MP's house has been burnt in Molo. They ran there to make prayers for chicken that died, and they've not had time to pray for the young people who are in hospitals. Shame on those pastors, and we shall tell you to your face. Mulienda Nakuru kuombea kuku. I don't think you've seen these things. Na kusema ati nyumba ya MP imedisekretiwa. Nobody cared about the lives of the young people. And for those pastors who went to State House, and for those pastors who went to do that, by the way, what were you going to discuss in State House? A bill you never opposed? Something you never had a problem with? So you went there to eat rice, and then what? So do you still have that rice in your system? So these are the pastors who are failing us. And these are the people we do not want to see. In fact, as young people, we shall start marking them. All those who are in State House, tuonyeshwe picha zao. We will abscond their churches. Because what we would have expected from the least, go to hospital, see these young people, be seen to be compassionate about them,
with their problems,
be seen to be where the plight of the country is. But you are in State House because there is food there. Kwani hakuna food nyumbani. Some of these people have let us down completely. And it's a shame the church has ashamed itself. I'm not saying the whole church. Don't get me wrong. I have seen the Catholic Church and a few other churches that have come out. They've pronounced themselves on this issue. And thank you to the Muslim community. They even opened up their mosque and first aid was happening there. This is what now true religiosity is all about. But for those pastors, when you mliona na mashati za papo State House, please just find a way to hide your photos. Because we will make known who you are. And you will tell us what conversations, on behalf of who.
Yeah.
You never had a problem with finance bill. You've never been part of that. What were you doing in State House? I think it's a horrible shame. It's a dark day for the church in this country. And those people need to be called for a meeting. Hatutawasalimia because you are men of color. We've been saying greetings here and there. We are not going to come and say greetings to you.
But you see now, that's the conversation.
Yeah.
No one is backing down. It appears majority of people are not even tired. Of course, a lot has happened, the protest, everything, so many things have happened. But it appears people still have the energy to go on and on and on, right? What does this do to the business community, and what impact will this have to our country?
Yeah, I think there is need for us to create a middle conversation, because when you listen to the young people talking, and then you listen to the government talking and observe who the government is attempting to talk to solve the problem that is on the ground, there is a mismatch. And I think that is the one thing that, for example, you can see the anger, the heat that he's pushing. Like, we are the guys with the problem, but you're talking to the pastors, to the church leaders, and the young people have made it clear and put it on the table that church leaders are part of the problem that we currently have in this country, in that there seems to be an unholy marriage between the church and these politicians. And the church, which is supposed to be the moral custodian, they're the people that should be calling out the corruption. They're the people that should be calling out the plunder, the extravagance in government. But because they seem to be somehow benefiting from all this plunder and all this corruption, because, you know, this politician will come and do a fundraiser in church and be a guest of honor and all that, then they are silenced. They're not talking about it. And because of that, the young people are really, really annoyed. But I strongly believe, and I liked the introduction that he gave us in the beginning of this conversation. He's a mediator. And I want to believe that he also understands, and we all know, that at the end of the day, extremely hardline positions from everybody may not move us forward. And the banning of the entire nation may not be beneficial to anybody. You know, at the end of the day, businesses need to operate. Kids need to go to school. We do not want to have a banana republic. So even as we express the anger, and even as we call out the things that we need to call out, we must at one point also begin to ask ourselves, okay, fine, what is the way forward? We have said we don't want these leaders. Then which are the leaders that we want? We have said we don't want corruption. We don't want this. We don't want this. Then what is it that we do not want? Because I strongly believe, and we see it even when we are bringing up kids, you know, as long as a kid is expressing their frustration by kicking things in the sitting room and breaking cups and plates and everything, without necessarily learning to communicate what it is, the change that they want to see, then it only amounts to being a tantrum. So even us as the young people, we will have to be extremely deliberate. We will have to be firm. We will have to say these are the things we do not want to see in our country. But at the same time, we will have to step up and take the responsibilities that we need to take up to be able to develop our country. Yeah.
Fanya mambo, what's the way forward? From where you're sitting, what's the way forward? Given that this movement has been termed as leaderless, given that this movement has no faces, given that even right now, if the president was to call for dialogue with 6 representatives, you wouldn't be able to place them around. So what's the way forward?
Number one, I will say what is not the way forward. I am one person who's been in this fight and in the forefront, but there's one thing I have always told the young people, the generation just before us, the Gen Zs. I'm a millennial. And I've always told them, number one, let us not create anarchy. I saw this conversation about invading State House, and then I engaged a few Gen Zs and I asked them, so then what? Then one showed me the photo of the president's car and he said, kesho mambo ya State House ikienda vizuri nitarudi na hii. Another one said, nitarudi na kaunda suit. And then some were saying, nimebook room ya Charlene, I'm going to take the wigs. But I told them, Sudan had that problem.
Yeah.
They wanted so badly to remove Bashir.
Yeah.
But they did not think post-Bashir living.
Yeah.
So they invaded the State House of the place. They stole some dollars. There was very good wine, by the way. They took. Some of us should have been there. But they did it. And once they did that, the question then becomes, you've created a vacuum. You've created anarchy. Yeah. You've created a situation where I can now come to Maridadi Motors and take the biggest lorry and I tell you, utafanya nini? Nipeleke penye utanipeleka.
Yes.
And there's no government. So my thing is I'm beseeching the young people. And this is not cowardice, this is wisdom. Please avoid the idea of invading State House. Because you will create a Sudan in Kenya. You will create a Somalia in Kenya. My request to every young people, and I know we love each other and you listen to me and I also listen to you. That's why sometimes I speak your views. My request is when we do things, there's a constitutional way. Yeah. You cannot treat government unconstitutionally and expect government to treat you constitutionally. Yeah. To whom much is given, much is expected. So I'll beseech the young people, there is an impeachment process. We can mount enough pressure so that the president can be impeached by law. We can mount enough pressure so that he resigns. That doesn't create a power vacuum because the constitution will take effect. We can start what you are doing now, recalling the MPs who voted for the finance bill or people who are not serving our interests. Whatever you do, read the constitution. Let us be found within the boundaries of that constitution. So that if we do that, we can say we created a change in the country, but within the constitution. We impeached our MPs. We went for signatures. We did things that were within the provisions of the law, and we changed the country within the provisions of the law. I stand firmly to say I don't support the idea of going to State House. Some were saying nitatoka huko na kaunda suit ile ya papo. They even know the colors. and they were saying I think size yake itanitosha and maybe ati kuna taxes ziko kwa mifuko. You know, there are very many pockets. But I keep telling young people that may not help us. Let us not create anarchy. I beg you in the name of God. Let us find a way. If you can't wait for 2027, because some people feel 2027 is too far, I would suggest we wait. But if you can't wait, look at the Constitution. There are many provisions in there. And we can start applying those constitutional provisions, and it's possible to remove this government, but within the confines of the Constitution. That will help us. And then also, if we are not able to do that right now, I usually say the prize for good governance is constant vigilance. MP akienda kutana naambua we basari usipeane hivyo, akienda kutana naambua hapana hakuendangi hivyo. When you are constantly vigilant, when you keep them on their toes, when they know that if I issue bursaries na kimenyano, I give my people and deny others, people will storm my office and they'll greet me. So just be constantly vigilant in a constitutional way. I don't support banning of CDF offices. I've seen that happening, and I have implored young people and told them, there are many ways of giving pressure to your member of parliament. Let him come and tell him you're not going to address us. Don't beat him up. Don't stone him. Don't burn his car. Don't burn his house. It's not necessary. But let him know that he's unwanted. Let him know that he's lost your mandate. Tell him to his face, Mheshimiwa wetu, tulikuchagua, but for now you've lost our mandate. That is enough punishment. That person will not sleep. Don't touch him. Don't touch his wife. Don't touch his children. Don't burn his chicken. Yeah, that is my plea to every young person.
I think
let him feel the pressure and ambua to his face, we shall not vote for you again. Let him live with that. That is enough punishment.
And I think to support what he's saying, the point here is, if your intention is to build, then destroy nothing. Okay? And I want to believe that the movement in place, the intention, the true motive is to build. If the intention is to build, then do not be seen to want to destroy anything. And one strong point also that he has made is, as you agitate for change, be careful not to make the same mistakes that you're observing in the people that you want to change. If what you're seeing in them is arrogance, then don't be arrogant yourself. If what you're seeing in them is high-heartedness and people who cannot listen, then do not also become somebody who cannot listen. If we are saying that our agitation is based on the fact that these people are breaching the Constitution, are we going to achieve positive, sustainable change by breaching the same Constitution ourselves? So we will want to remain within the confines of the law. Fire does not build anywhere. So we want to avoid the fires. We want to avoid the theft. If you are accusing them of stealing public resources, then why would you walk into a supermarket yourself and steal a TV or steal anything or steal a phone from your fellow Protestant? You should be an ambassador of the same principles that you want these people to actually be able to observe. So I would want to re-echo his word and say that you want to make sure that you're building a country that works for everybody, a fair society. Do not attack people's wives. Do not attack people's children. Communicate to the people that you want to communicate to. Put the pressure. Let them know this is what we expect. And let us also remember that sometimes a situation is bad. But because a situation is bad, it does not automatically become good. If you're not careful, it can also become worse. And he has given a very good example of countries like Sudan, because we can agitate for change by creating a vacuum that is going to be replaced by the devil himself. So what we should be asking for is that our country should move from the bad state it is in and go into a good place. For it to go there, there will be need for leadership. There will be need for people to listen to each other. There will be need for people to dialogue and for people to sacrifice and say, we are doing this together because we are all fellows in the same ship called Kenya. And it is Kenya we want to build. Yeah.
You said you would urge people to let him finish his term, to let him go all the way to 2027. But then there is also this campaign that has shifted from Occupy Parliament, reject the finance bill, to Ruto must go. To those people who still insist and feel that Ruto must go, what would you tell them? especially given the timing and the fact that he has promised that there are some things he's willing to put in place to make this work?
I've asked myself the question, if I had a serious fight with my wife and she's 4 months pregnant and I feel my wife must go, would I send her when she's 4 months pregnant, or would I wait for her to give birth? And then we discuss about how we are going to separate. There is nothing as bad in a country for investors as political uncertainty. This gentleman here will tell you how many times he worries about waking up and then the showrooms have been stoned and the cars are not there. Every political transition in Kenya is like a life and death situation. The less of those you have, the better.
The better. Stability.
We are not saying that we love our president so much. What we are saying is we hate anarchy so much that we would rather be in this bad situation in the interim until we can constitutionally bring about a meaningful change. If there's one person who wanted this administration gone, it's me. Yesterday, last week, last year, even when I didn't even want them in power. But I'm in a place where I feel that the alternative would be worse. I have loved this country so much that I feel that I do not want it to go the Somalia or the Sudan way. And it's very easy. When you see like the demos, the first two were very peaceful. I saw people with very expensive iPhones taking photos. I can assure you, those are not the guys who were stealing TVs and unga from supermarkets.
Very true.
And there has been rumors of some people in certain quarters paying hired goons to join the demonstration and so as to paint Gen Z as a horrible people. But I remember there's a Gen Z who bought chicken. If you've seen this video, and they went and they started sharing with the policemen. And these policemen were like, wow, this is very nice chicken. So that person who is affording that kind of chicken is not interested in stealing sukari from the supermarket like I saw people stealing sugar. I remember the first demonstration, even the hawkers did not close down. And wherever they went, they bought the water they needed.
Even the parking spaces were full.
Yes, and the parking spaces were full. And hata hakuna side mirror ilibiwa.
Yes.
But then now these goons who've been hired, you saw in Eldoret, people carrying fighting sticks. Those were hired people to come and interfere with peaceful demonstrations. The same politicians that we are rejecting are the same people who are making this look like the Gen Zs are bad people. But from where I sit, I remember very well that there was a lot of good demonstrations that happened. Who carries an iPhone to a demonstration? Sisi tulikuwa tunasikia kuna maandamano, unatafuta kamulika mwizi.
Yes.
You leave your car at home, you wear the oldest jeans. You want to look like, because there was a profile of how those demonstrators looked like. So let us not demonize our young people. This fight is not a Gen Z fight. It's a national fight. It's a fight for everybody. And if the Gen Zs didn't fight, I can tell you, every other person would have fought. Because if your land is going to move from freehold to leasehold, and then now you become a tenant on your own land, and you've buried your grandfather there, it's not a very good thing. So let us build this nation.
Oh God. And also back to the round table, you know, he kept saying there were very good things in this finance bill. There were a lot of good things that would have moved this country forward. Yes, there are things that needed to be amended, but majority of what was in there would have moved this country forward. What do you think? And also now, what's the future of the country, given that there are debts that we need to pay? Where he was going to get the money, he can't get the money. So where does that leave us as a nation?
First is to appreciate that there is great energy in this entire scenario that the leaders can tap into. First, the young people have demonstrated their interest in the affairs of their country. And the young people are not just coming to say we want, sausages and popcorns. They are acknowledging the fact that we are a developing country. We have challenges. And the young people are not saying we are not willing to be part of the sacrifice that need to be made. But what we are saying is that everybody then has to demonstrate that sacrifice. You cannot be telling us to tighten our belts, but you're loosening yours because of how, your tummies are becoming big. So I think what I would want to point out is the fact that there is an opportunity to tap into the energy that the young people have demonstrated for the leaders that are in place. The other thing is that silencing the people will not work. I think the best thing that the leaders, and we are talking about leaders in all quarters, including leaders in the business community, the best thing that we can ever do is to be able to hear what the people are saying. What are the young people saying? What are their problems? And be able to incorporate those problems in whatever it is that we are calling national. If you're doing a national budget, then it should espouse, just as if you are doing a budget for your household. If you have kids that are going to school, if you have somebody who is sick, if you have a car that needs to be fuel and needs insurance, your budget has to be a representation of your needs, of your wants, of your problems, of your aspirations. And I think what the young people are saying is that you guys are so locked up in a comfortable space, in a comfortable chamber, that you no longer identify with the problems of the people. And what they are therefore saying is that they are giving feedback. It has to be taken as feedback. And for as long as the people feel represented, see, the problem is that the people will watch the sessions in parliament and they will look at the conversations that are going on in parliament and they ask themselves, are these people aware of the challenges that people have on the ground? Are they aware of the unemployment that people have on the ground? Is there anything that you're discussing in that august house that pertains to the fact that there is a woman, there is a father who educated her 4 children through SACCO loans, and none of these 4 kids has a job. They have nowhere to report to. For them, those are the statistics that matter. So for me, I would say that the leadership is about tackling challenges. Let them take whatever is going on right now as feedback from the people, that you guys are completely out of sync from the socio-economic realities that the country is going through. Of utmost importance is that point that we have emphasized on with our brother here, that we ought to remember that you can be in a bad situation, but you can move yourself from a bad situation to a worse or worst position. Our intention and the cry of the nation right now is that we move from this bad place into a good place. For us to move to a good place, there are sacrifices that we all have to make. There is listening that we have to do as a people. Whether you are a young person or you are an old person in the leadership, there is the bit of talking where you will have to communicate your challenges, but there will also have to be a bit where you will have to listen on what is possible and what is not possible. And the prayer is, yes, we are in a bad place as a country, but there are countries that are in worse places than Kenya. Okay? So we have to ask ourselves, from where we are as a country, are we going to become a Singapore tomorrow? Or are we going to become a banana republic tomorrow? What will make the difference is the mentality, the steps that we all take. And this is where we are urging our young people also, that no matter how much we want to agitate for change, lighting up fires, stealing from others, being arrogant, failing to listen and dialogue with people may also not work in helping us move forward. But at the same time, let us see the government, the leaders making deliberate effort to build trust, to rebuild trust, to buy back the hearts of people by making the right decisions. Let us see the arrogant leaders being told to leave the platform. Let us see the corrupt leaders being held to account. Let us see policies that are actually going to solve the needs of the problems of the people and be able to espouse the aspirations of the people. Let us take enterprise seriously. You asked a very important question. If these demos continue, it means investments will not come to this country. Okay, what is that going to mean for job creation? It's going to mean that you cannot be able, because like he said, investors do not like to invest in a place where a fire can be lit to burn everything any day. Nobody is going to invest in that kind of a place. So you want to create a certain level of social economic stability to be able to give the investors confidence to be able to put their money in the country. And if the money comes, the investments come to the country, then you have the jobs that people need. Okay? You have entrepreneurs having the space to think about expansion. Right now, if somebody was thinking about, for example, expanding into a county that just demonstrated that it can ban anytime, I want to believe that they are going to hold back. So if somebody was going to bring a supermarket to a certain county that, stole from another supermarket or burnt a supermarket, it means that that business person now has to hold those plans. Those are 100 jobs, 200 jobs that would have been created. So the thing here is there is what the governments and the leaders need to do, but there is also what we, the young people of this country, also have to do to be able to move the country forward. Thank you.
I think it starts from the understanding of the budget. In very simple layman language, is like, say you are drawing an annual budget for yourself. So you put your basic needs, rent, steamer, water, my fare, or probably whatever, fuel for your car. You put all the basics there, including school fees for children. And then you begin to become excited. You say there, I'm going to buy a new Prado this year. I'm going to go for 4 benchmarking trips. I'm going to be going to have nyama choma every weekend. I'm going to have 5 beers every night.
You forgot an iPhone.
You forgot a new iPhone. And you have new shoes and new shirts. And you've decided, like State House decided that you need new furniture. You've decided that you can have a dais where you'll be addressing your children from, so you need a dais that is very expensive. So you draw a budget for the year. And then you start wondering why things are hard for you. But actually, the problem is in the budget. When you go and sit down and start saying, why do I have a 400,000 shillings budget? Because now we have a 4 trillion budget. Why do I have a budget for 400,000? You start realizing, I don't need a new Rolex watch this year. I don't need this year. I don't need benchmarking trips, because we waste about 139 billion of taxpayers' money every year on entertainment, on hotels, accommodation, and travel. 139 billion, that's a lot of money. So when you start expunging what I would call nonsense from your budget, your budget becomes maybe 300,000 for the whole year, and it was 400,000. This is where Kenya needs to go. Sit down with that budget. We start asking ourselves, you know, there's a county that went for benchmarking in Rwanda about the dairy. And then Rwanda told them, by the way, we got to learn this about from Githongori. So just go back to Githongori. This is the nonsense that is wasting taxpayers' money. So we have to get there. I mean, I've seen every person in government has a new vehicle. There's a rush to get the 2024 Prado. I don't know why. So
why?
This is why. So this is why I'm saying the problem is in that budget. Before you talk about raising money for it, the problem is in the budget. Start removing. And the final suggestion I would make to this administration, if you go to any government ministry, any government department, utakuta gari 5, 6, 10 zimemea nyasi imefika hapa. And he'll tell you some of them utambua ile iliharibu alternator, it was packed. That one, the battery went down, it was packed. Most of these government vehicles have very interesting stories. I am telling you, if government was to auction all the dead cars in their yards, all of them, zipelekwe nyao stadium, every county zipelekwe kwa stadium, auctioniwe, we would have money in the billions that would help us sort out some of the problems we have. And they are so busy in a hurry buying new ones. But I can tell you, in any government office or yard you can think about, the number of Land Rovers, so many vehicles.
Lying idle.
Mercedes, lying idle. Hata kwa judiciary kuna zingine zilikuwa zimeozea hapo. Grass inafika mpaka huku juu. So let's first get rid of that. See whatever little money we can collect from that. Even if it's 10, 20 billion, we didn't have it. And then move forward from there.
Thank you so much. You know, again, as we said, of course, there is also a bit of tension in the country. Some people want dialogue. Some people also are saying whatever it is we were advocating for, it's already being done. Let's give these people time. As you've said, some people may feel that the president is pregnant and he needs to deliver. There are a lot of opinions. There's a bit of tension. If every person in Kenya was to watch this right now, what would that parting shot look like from you?
For me, I would want to talk about servanthood, and particularly servant leadership. The spirit of serving each other, not lording over each other. And I just wrote a post the other day on my Facebook page and say, the one word that has destroyed the philosophy of leadership in this country is the word mheshimiwa. And if you were to think about it critically, it should actually be mtumishi, okay? Because we elect our leaders, we choose our leaders to go and serve us. But something gets into them and they start competing for opulence, and they somehow feel like they are lords over the people. I think we ought to bring ourselves to that point of seeing everything that we have as a God-given opportunity to serve. to serve the people and better people's lives. So my part in short is, ask yourself as a Kenyan, the position, the resources that God have given you, how is it, the knowledge that God has given you, the health, because even the health is given to you freely by God. How are you using the position that God has given you to serve his people, to better people's lives? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you accumulate, you will be remembered for the lives you touched, not the acres of land, the cars, the houses that you built, the power that you held. All the hoarding at the end of the day is completely useless. I feel that we need to make a national call back to servanthood. Servant leadership is what we need. And if we have servant leadership, nobody will want to be escorted by 5 vehicles as if we are a country that is in war. Okay, you will understand that you can mix with the people, you can interact with the people. Now we have gotten to that point whereby the leaders are completely afraid of mixing. Can you imagine that the leaders have gone to a point whereby they are fearing to mix with the same people that they are supposed to lead? Where has all this hostility come from? But trust you me, if the people were viewing them as servants, as people that are there to serve them and improve their lives, then they would be running to them, embracing them, to go and cry to them, look for hope, look for encouragement. Let us seek to be a nation that serves each other. Yeah.
Fanya mambo, what would that parting shot look like from your end?
I think I will steal his words,
Yes.
word for word, and say it this way. From today, hakuna mtu atakuwa anaitwa mheshimiwa Kenya. Gen Zs, everybody, wherever you are, from today, sasa toka leo ni mtumishi. Because that word mheshimiwa has gotten to their head, and they've gotten to a place where they can lord over us. So we are not going to be saying honorable so-and-so, we are going to be saying servant so-and-so. And that Muhad Muhesh has to come to an end. That idea of a demigod has to come to an end. That idea of mheshimiwa has to come to an end. From now henceforth, in this country, anybody who is elected, tutakuwa tunamuita mtumishi. Na tutakuwa tunamuita servant so and so. Because that is what is going to build this nation. We are not going to accept a situation where people think that they are small gods and they can lord over us and they can drive and, you know, that silence they make and so on and so forth. So kutoka leo, hiyo jina mheshimiwa tunamaliza. And kutoka leo tunaweka mtumishi. And we shall be calling them watumishi. And they, so that they are put in their place. They are servants of the people and they are elected by us and they are serving us. Sasa hata wanaogopa kuja kwa constituency. My mheshimiwa John KJ Kiari, I have spoken to the young people in the ground. Mwambie wasikusalimie na nguvu sana. They just be nice to you, but tell you family that they no longer trust your leadership. Because, you know, they burnt the CDF office in Dagoretti. And we've done a lot of work of talking to the young people in Dagoretti and telling them, please, let's not go there. Because now they were saying, tunangoja Muhesh tumsalimia, tujamsalimia. So he's not been seen. We don't even know where he is. Muhesh, we kuwa tu roho imetulia. We are kind, we are talking to the people. But, and this is everywhere across the country. Let us not harm these people. But let us tell them very firm words that you lost our confidence. You lost our faith. We don't believe in your leadership. We will try in the interim to remove you constitutionally by collecting signatures. But if it doesn't work, we are not voting for you again. Let that be very clear to them so that they start preparing their exit in a nice way so that we don't cause anarchy. I don't want us. Because there are people, you know, the wale walisalimua very ferociously. You can tell it would have gone to a death situation. And we don't have a duly constituted IBC. So again, we don't want that. So let's not cause killings. Let's not harm these people. But let them know in their hearts very firmly that we are not together with them.
Good. I want to wind up, but I wouldn't want to, in case maybe someone has something burning they wanted to address and you feel that you've not maybe addressed it, feel free.
No, I think one of the best things that we can say is that this country will never be the same again. This conversation has made a mark on concrete. It cannot be deleted. The bar has been raised, but like my brother is saying, whatever changes we make, let us make them within the law, let us make them within the constitution, and let us make sure that we do not move from a bad place
to
our worst place. Let us not jump from the frying pan
to the fire.
Let us be wise in our moves and let us understand that at the end of the day, the changes, it's not coffee we are making. Okay, it's not food we are heating on the microwave. It's a nation we are building. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take effort. It's gonna take sacrifice from all of us. There will be time to talk, and there will be time to also listen.
Good.
Yeah.
Kinuthia, anything you want to add? Also, where can people find you guys?
Mine is to say I'm very humbled
Yeah.
to have had this invitation. I am in Kilimani, as I said.
Yes.
I run my mediation firm, and mine is to every corporate, every individual out there. We will help you mediate your disputes. On this particular one between government and the Gen Z or the nation itself, I'm unable to mediate
Yes.
because first I had taken a stand. I am a protagonist in this dispute. So even if a mediation was called, I would recuse myself. That is professionalism. I would say, on this one, I am so biased. People even know where I am.
You are invested.
Yeah, I can't mediate on this one. It would be bad manners.
Yeah.
And professionalism does not allow me. But now for those, and now that tells you something as a corporate or whoever it is that you are, that wherever you are, there's someone who knows when there's a conflict of interest. And I am that person. So yeah, I'm found in Kilimani,
Yes.
and what we do is we help people resolve their disputes, both corporate and personal, out of court. Of course, don't bring me murder, and when you defile someone, don't even come to my office. Just go and deal with the consequences of defilement.
Okay.
But the rest of the issues are things we can sit and talk about. I mean, the distinguishing factor between human beings and animals is that we have language and animals don't have. So that's why when I see someone with a baton beating people, I wonder, what's wrong with your head? This person has got a language, and you have a language.
can communicate.
That puts you above the animals. Yeah, the bulls will knock each other, the lions will take out their clothes. Human beings produce language. And that distinguishes us from the animals. Let us use language.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Eric, it's been amazing having this conversation again. We've not sat in a...
And he's a very intelligent person. Good to have such people on the set.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
we
he
should have
is.
such people.
Yes, he's very intelligent.
Yes,
you.
we will
Humbled.
really, yeah, we appreciate your input
Kenya
in this
Kwanza would not sit
conversation.
on a panel with you. They'll call you like they called Sifuna. I'm not going to debate you.
They would
We
not-
want a good country.
We want a good country, and
Yeah.
all of us must participate
Yeah.
in making sure that we get the country
Yeah.
we deserve. I appreciate you, Kinuthia, also. I've been longing to have a conversation with
Great
you, so
input.
I'm happy this has happened, and I know the timing is also perfect. And also call to action. For me, I would want a peaceful nation. As you've said, let's not go to anarchy, but also let us make sure that we firmly declare and tell those people that they do not get to represent us anymore in the
Kabisa.
coming election. And I hope, what do you think Kenyans have learned in all this, as we wind up? What's the greatest lesson Kenyans have learned from all this?
I am shocked, because, I've never met him. We've never talked.
Yeah.
But I came here feeling that, yes, the young people have a point, but there will be need for somebody to be the mid-generation between the Gen Zs and these older guys,
Yes.
to kind of create a bridge conversation that can be able to bring people to their senses to realize that if we are not careful, it's like a fight for an egg. If we are fighting for an egg, if we are not careful, we both lose the egg in the process because it's going to fall or somebody is going to crush it and it's going to break. That is what society and nation is all about. It's like an egg. As we fight for it, we have to apply both force while ensuring that our hands are soft enough so that we do not break that egg. And I feel that's where we are as a country. So the lesson here is that we are dealing with a very, very sensitive situation, and we all have to be very careful. Even as we assert ourselves, we have to be very, very careful so that we don't break what we have.
Okay.
And I can't wait for the end of the conversation to confirm whether actually his wife is 4 months pregnant.
Okay. I was wondering where Eric the comedian went to. Kinuthia, is she?
Interesting.
Is she?
So I'm waiting for his final remark.
Or off camera?
Yeah.
Or on camera? Kinuthia.
There is no pregnancy in there. That I can confirm. It doesn't mean that I'm not potent. My kids are big. My kids are big. I'm lucky to have had my kids when I was very young.
Yeah.
In fact, my son is taller than myself.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
here, same WhatsApp group.
Yes.
Yeah. And my daughter Sasa is at my, so I thank God.
Yeah.
That was a huge blessing for myself. But I would like to say there is a mediation example of an orange fruit. and two people had a dispute. And they went, and the mediator who was there did what our pastors are doing now. This orange, you are fighting, let's do it. The most fair thing, we cut it into two. You take 50, you take 50. You're happy? You're happy. And they thought they had resolved the dispute. But by observing what was done with the orange, that's when they discovered that they have not resolved the dispute. One person was trying to make something for the skin. It was a lady. She had been told if you use the skin of the orange, you crush it like this, the juice is good for the skin.
Okay.
So she only wanted the peel. So she took the peel and threw the half of the orange inside away.
Wow.
The other guy wanted to make juice. So he took the pulp of the orange, put it in a blender, and threw the skin. If they had listened, the whole skin would have gone to the lady. And the whole inside would have gone to the gentleman. But these people thought by cutting it into two is 50-50, everybody is happy. The situation we are in right now looks like that. Because everybody thinks that we meet somewhere halfway. Gen Zs are probably not even looking at anything. Because the reason they don't even have a leader is they're not even looking at occupying any leadership position.
That's it.
And government is used to the negotiations where tutakuleta.
Tupatie position.
Moja wenyu tumfanye minister. Alafu tuwapatie position. Some of you, we make you ambassadors. We include you in government and that's done. But you're looking at people who are telling you, we are looking for the skin. We don't even want the orange. Go and make juice with the orange.
We just want the freedom to do our business.
So let's have a conversation around understanding how intricate this is. Because I can imagine if the president gave to these young people what he's thinking he'd give them, which is probably half the orange. And then they take away the orange they throw, and they are left with the peel. And the president is thinking, amuko mnataka hii juice na vile ni tamu.
Basi mko na
So
fujo.
yeah, let's have a conversation that will resolve this thing in a manner that captures the interests
Of all
of
parties.
the parties more than it is a manner that captures half-half. Or, meeting
I
halfway.
love that.
That's
I
the
love
thing.
that.
A country that works for everybody.
Yes, for the goodness
Yeah.
of all.
Yeah.
Shukran sana.
Thank
My
you.
time here is over, but I really have loved also the call to action. I love the analogy of the orange. Let's not take the inner part and throw away the skin. Let's not take the skin and throw away the inner. Let's work for the goodness of everyone in this country. And also, my people, if you are watching, I value your feedback. I would love to know in the comment section what your thoughts are. Anything that has been said here that you relate to, anything you want to add on, anything that you feel that we've left out, always free to engage with us on the comment section. And also, if it's something that you can't put on the comment section, our email is always there for you, info@lnn.digital. Share those views with me, and I really do hope that we continue having these meaningful conversations, and I hope we all become active participants of making sure that this orange is not broken into half. We don't want 50-50. We want the whole orange that works for the betterment of everyone in this country. Thank you so much, and also to my incredible team, Muga Scholar, for being very awesome people and for putting this production together, and also the entire team at LNN that you don't get to see here. I always say you get to see me in front of the camera, but it takes an entire tribe. So shukran sana. And also Eric from Maridadi Motors and Kinodia from Kilimani Mediation. Hapo naona nikikuja ni mediate na Eric. Story ya Prado. But jokes aside there, thank you. It's been nice. And also let me know who else you would love to see on this show. And thank you guys. We are heading to 1 million subscribers. That still humbles me, so I appreciate. So in case you just watched this and uka realize, kumbe I've been watching these shows and I've not subscribed, please subscribe. It goes a long way into making sure that our work reaches a wider audience. I've been your host, Lynn Ngugi. I'm gonna see you guys hopefully tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bye-bye.